The warning alarm screamed across every human vessel in the Sol Defense Fleet as massive alien ships materialized from hyperspace. Captain Michael Reed watched from the bridge of the battleship Valiant as 12 colossal vessels formed a perfect battle formation around Earth. Each ship was twice the size of anything humanity had ever built, their hulls gleaming with unknown technologies that made the space around them shimmer like heat waves. Unknown vessels, you are in violation of human territory. Reed transmitted on all frequencies. Identify yourselves and state your intentions. The response came not through radio waves but directly into the minds of every human in the system. The voice was cold, ancient, and carried the weight of absolute authority. I am First Speaker Kaleth of the Galactic Council. By the power vested in us by the Universal Charter, we hereby place the species designation human under immediate judgment for violations of territorial expansion law. Reed felt sweat gathering on his forehead despite the bridge's climate control. The Galactic Council was legendary among the few human explorers who had ventured beyond the Outer Rim. They were said to govern 1,000 civilizations across the galaxy, wielding technology that could reshape entire star systems. Captain, whispered Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park from the communications station, we're receiving data streams from all major Earth installations. Every defense platform, every orbital station, every ship in the fleet is being scanned. On the main screen, Earth hung vulnerable and beautiful against the starfield. Home to 8 billion humans who had no idea their entire species was about to be judged by forces beyond their comprehension. Human Captain, First Speaker Kaleth continued, you will accompany us to the council chamber. Your species will answer for the crime of territorial theft. Reed straightened in his command chair. What territorial theft? We've never claimed any worlds beyond our documented borders. Do not insult our intelligence. For 50 years, your kind has maintained an impenetrable barrier at the edge of your territory. No council vessel, no exploration probe, no form of matter or energy has been able to pass beyond that boundary. You have stolen 1/8 of the galaxy from the collective. The accusation hit Reed like a physical blow. The Outer Rim territories were indeed heavily defended, but not for the reasons the aliens suspected. First Speaker, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Silence, Kaleth commanded. You will come aboard our vessel. Your primitive weapons cannot harm us, and resistance will only worsen your species' judgment. Reed looked around his bridge at officers who had served with distinction for decades. These men and women had volunteered for the most dangerous assignment in human space, defending borders that most people didn't understand needed defending. Sir, Lieutenant Park said quietly, incoming transmission from Earth Defense Command. Admiral Martinez is requesting permission to implement Protocol 7. Protocol 7 was the nuclear option quite literally. It would detonate every fusion warhead in the Sol system simultaneously, creating a destructive field that would eliminate both the human fleet and the alien visitors. It was a tactic that had never been tested but theoretically could give Earth time to prepare for whatever came next. Reed studied the alien vessels on his screen. They hung there with casual arrogance, secure in their overwhelming technological superiority. They had no idea what humanity was capable of when cornered. Negative on Protocol 7, Reed replied. Signal Admiral Martinez that I'm going aboard their ship as requested, but tell him to prepare the full briefing package. If they want to judge humanity, they need to understand what we've really been protecting. As Reed prepared to transfer to the alien vessel, he thought about the classified files locked in the deepest vaults of Earth Defense Command. Files that contained truth about what lay beyond human territory. Truth that would terrify even the mighty Galactic Council. The transport beam that enveloped Reed was unlike anything in human technology. He felt his molecules dissolving and reforming, experiencing consciousness without a physical body for several terrifying seconds. When he materialized on the alien ship, he found himself in a chamber that seemed to exist in more dimensions than his mind could properly process. First Speaker Kaleth stood before him, a being that might have been beautiful if not for the absolute coldness in its crystalline eyes. Its form was vaguely humanoid but composed of what appeared to be living metal that flowed like mercury. Captain Reed, Kaleth said, its voice now audible rather than telepathic. You will explain why your species has sealed off the galactic rim. You will reveal what technologies you possess that can block Council sensors, and you will justify your theft of territory that belongs to all civilized worlds. Reed looked around the chamber, noting the other alien forms that watched from the shadows. Some were recognizable as biological entities, others appeared to be pure energy given form. All of them radiated power that made his human sensibilities scream warnings. "First speaker," Reed said carefully. "Humanity has never stolen anything from the galactic community. Our borders are exactly where they've always been. But if you're asking why no one can travel beyond our territory..." He paused, knowing that his next words would change everything. "The reason isn't that we're preventing passage outward. The reason is that we're preventing something from coming in." Caleth's form rippled with what might have been surprise. "Explain." Reed activated the data crystal he'd brought from the Valiant, knowing it contained information that had cost humanity 30 years of desperate warfare to acquire. "What I'm about to show you will explain why the galactic map ends at human territory. But I warn you, once you see this, you'll understand why we've been willing to fight a war that officially doesn't exist." The holographic display activated, showing star charts that made several of the watching aliens step backward in apparent shock. Beyond the edge of human space, where the galactic maps showed empty void, the display revealed something that defied rational explanation. A barrier of absolute darkness stretched across space like a cosmic wound, behind which shapes moved that seemed to devour light itself. 50 years ago, Reed continued, humanity made contact with this entity. We call it the Hunger. And for 5 decades, we've been the only thing standing between it and the rest of the galaxy. The silence that followed was broken only by the sounds of alien breathing apparatuses and energy fields fluctuating with shock. Finally, first speaker Caleth spoke, its voice now carrying undertones that Reed recognized as fear. "If this is truth, then why did your species not report this threat to the Council?" Reed's smile was grim. "Because by the time we understood what we were dealing with, we realized something terrifying. The Hunger doesn't just consume matter and energy. It learns, it adapts, it becomes stronger with every civilization it encounters." He gestured to the display, showing battle footage from humanity's desperate war. "We've been fighting it with the one advantage no other species possesses: our complete unpredictability. But we're losing, and if humanity falls, nothing in this galaxy will be able to stop what comes next." The aliens around the chamber exchanged glances that crossed species barriers, all recognizing the implications of what they were hearing. "What do you need from the Council?" Caleth asked quietly. Reed's expression grew grave. "Everything you can give us, because what I just showed you is the Hunger when it's contained. If our defenses fail..." He activated another display, showing projections that made even the ancient Galactic Council members recoil in horror. "The real war is about to begin." The Council chamber aboard the massive alien vessel hummed with tension as first speaker Caleth processed the impossible data Reed had presented. The holographic displays still showed the Hunger's barrier, a wall of living darkness that stretched across the galaxy's edge like a cosmic scar. "This cannot be verified," declared Council member Vrex, a towering being whose crystalline structure resonated with skeptical harmonics. "No Council sensors have detected such an entity." Reed activated another section of his data crystal. "That's because the Hunger actively masks its presence from most scanning technologies. It took humanity 15 years to develop sensors that could penetrate its stealth fields." The new display showed comparative sensor readings. Standard galactic technology revealed empty space beyond human borders, but advanced human sensors painted a different picture entirely. The darkness writhed with malevolent intelligence, probing constantly for weaknesses in humanity's defensive line. "How did your primitive species develop such advanced detection capability?" asked Council member Thes, whose serpentine form coiled around a floating platform. "Because we had no choice," Reed replied grimly. "When you're fighting for survival against something that can perfectly mimic your own technology, you either innovate or die." He showed them footage from humanity's first encounter with the Hunger 50 years ago. The exploration ship Discovery had been investigating what appeared to be a spatial anomaly when tendrils of absolute darkness erupted from empty space. The ship's desperate transmissions showed the Hunger analyzing every system, every weapon, every aspect of human technology with terrifying efficiency. "Captain Morrison's final message gave us our first clue about what we were facing," Reed continued. The recording crackled with static as Morrison's voice echoed through the chamber. It's not destroying USA, it's learning from us. Every system it touches, it understands instantly. It's trying to figure out how to become us. Several council members shifted uneasily. First speaker Kaleth's metallic form flowed into a more defensive configuration. Continue. The entity sent back a perfect replica of the discovery 12 hours later. Reed explained. Perfect in every detail except one word it couldn't replicate human intuition. Our orbital defenses detected anomalies in the crew's behavioral patterns within minutes. The display showed the false discovery approaching Earth, its crew moving with mechanical precision that no human would mistake for natural behavior. When Earth's forces opened fire, the ship's response was tactically perfect but emotionally hollow. We learned that the hunger operates on principles of absolute logic, Reed continued. It analyzes, adapts, and overwhelms through superior understanding of its enemy's capabilities. But it cannot comprehend or replicate truly irrational behavior. Council member Kathera, whose energy-based form pulsed with curious patterns, leaned forward. You discovered a weakness in this entity? Not a weakness exactly, Reed corrected. More like a blind spot. The hunger can predict and counter any rational response, but human beings don't always act rationally. We make decisions based on emotion, intuition, self-sacrifice for abstract ideals. These behaviors create gaps in its logic that we've learned to exploit. He showed them battle footage from humanity's defensive wars. Human ships moved in patterns that seemed almost suicidal. Damaged vessels ramming enemy formations instead of retreating. Squadrons breaking formation to protect single wounded allies. Commanders making tactical decisions that violated every principle of military strategy. Yet somehow, impossibly, these chaotic tactics created victories against an enemy that should have been unbeatable. This is madness, Vrex declared, his crystalline structure flashing with disapproval. No rational military force could sustain such losses. You're right, Reed agreed. A rational military force would have been defeated in the first engagement. But humanity isn't rational. We're stubborn, reckless, and willing to die for causes that make no logical sense. The hunger can't process that kind of thinking. First speaker Kaleth had been studying the tactical displays with growing unease. How many of these engagements have occurred? 47 major battles over the past 5 decades, Reed replied. Thousands of smaller skirmishes. We've lost over 200 ships and 30,000 personnel, but we've maintained the containment barrier. The numbers hit the council members like physical blows. These weren't the casualties of a few isolated incidents. This was evidence of a prolonged war that had raged for half a century without their knowledge. Why did you not request council assistance? Thais demanded. Reed's expression grew haunted. Because we discovered something worse about the hunger. It doesn't just learn from individual encounters. It retains and shares knowledge across its entire collective consciousness. Every civilization it encounters makes it stronger. He activated a new display showing ancient star charts overlaid with current maps. Where historical records indicated thriving systems and trade routes, current maps showed only empty space leading to the barrier. The hunger has been advancing slowly for millions of years, Reed explained. It consumed the Vorthak Empire 2 million years ago. The crystal dynasties of the Outer Rim fell 800,000 years ago. Dozens of civilizations that your histories record as myths and legends. Council member Aethelus, whose aquatic form swayed in its environmental suit, spoke with growing horror. You're claiming that entire galactic civilizations have been erased? Not erased, Reed corrected. Absorbed. The hunger doesn't just destroy, it assimilates everything it encounters. Technologies, knowledge, even the fundamental thought patterns of entire species. Each civilization it consumes makes it more powerful and more adaptable. The silence that followed was deafening. The council members exchanged glances across species barriers, all recognizing the implications of what they were hearing. Then how has humanity survived? Kaleth asked quietly. Reed smiled grimly. Because we're the first species the hunger has encountered, that it fundamentally cannot understand. Our unpredictability creates paradoxes in its learning algorithms. Our willingness to sacrifice tactical advantage for emotional reasons breaks its predictive models. He showed them more recent battle footage where human tactics had become even more chaotic and desperate. Ships using their own hulls as shields for allies. Crews manually overloading their reactors to create explosion patterns that made no strategic sense. Commanders making split-second decisions based on intuition rather than analysis. But our advantage is eroding, Reed admitted. The hunger is learning to anticipate even our irrational responses. Each engagement costs us not just ships and lives, but the very unpredictability that makes our defense effective. He activated a final display showing current projections. The data painted a clear picture. Humanity's defensive capabilities were declining while the hunger's adaptive responses grew stronger. According to our best estimates, we have 18 months before total containment failure, Reed said quietly. When that happens, the hunger will pour into this galaxy like a tsunami of living darkness. It will consume every star system, every world, every civilization. The council chamber fell silent except for the hum of life support systems struggling to maintain atmosphere for dozens of different species. Finally, first speaker Kaleth spoke, its voice carrying a weight that seemed to age the very air around them. What does humanity need from the council? Reed straightened, meeting the alien leader's gaze directly. Alliance, resources, and most importantly, the diverse thinking patterns of every species in the council. The hunger adapts to individual threats, but it has never faced a truly unified galactic response. His data crystal projected one final image. Theoretical battle formation incorporating ships and tactics from dozens of different civilizations, each contributing their unique approaches to warfare and problem solving. We can't win this war by fighting like humans, Reed concluded, but maybe we can win it by fighting like the entire galaxy united as one. The implications hung in the air like a challenge to everything the Galactic Council thought they knew about interstellar politics, warfare, and survival itself. The Emergency War Council convened in the deepest chamber of the Council flagship, a spherical room designed to accommodate the most diverse gathering of alien species in galactic history. Representatives from 43 civilizations surrounded the central holographic display, their various forms creating a living constellation of shapes, colors, and energy patterns. Admiral Janet Cross materialized via quantum transmission from the human battleship Defiant, her weathered face bearing the scars of 5 decades of impossible warfare. Behind her, the bridge hummed with activity as her crew monitored the hunger's latest probing attacks along the containment barrier. The situation has deteriorated faster than our worst projections, Cross began without preamble. 6 hours ago, the hunger achieved breakthrough at Sector 7. We lost the entire Cerberus defense, linear 52 ships and 15,000 personnel. The assembled delegates responded with a chorus of dismay that transcended species barriers. Clicking mandibles, harmonic resonances, and bioelectric fluctuations created a symphony of alarm that filled the chamber. Representative Nexus of the Silicon Collective, its geometric form pulsing with computational distress, processed the tactical data with mechanical precision. The entity's adaptation rate has increased exponentially. Previous breakthrough attempts required 72 hours of sustained assault. This attack succeeded in 18 minutes. Because it's learning our defensive patterns faster than we can change them, Cross replied grimly. She activated the battle recordings, showing the hunger's latest assault with terrifying clarity. The enemy had evolved beyond its previous forms. Where once it had sent crude mimicries of human vessels, now it deployed ships that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They phased through defensive fire, adapted to new weapon frequencies in real time, and coordinated their attacks with precision that made the most advanced military AIs look primitive. It's not just copying our tactics anymore, Cross explained. It's predicting them. Every maneuver we've used in the past 50 years, every desperate gambit that saved us before the hunger, now anticipates all of it. Representative Thulon of the aquatic depths, its translucent form rippling with concern, spoke through bioacoustic translators. Then how do we fight an enemy that knows everything we know? We don't fight it like we've been fighting, Cross answered. We fight it like something completely new. She gestured to the display, which shifted to show theoretical fleet configurations unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Ships from dozens of different civilizations moved in formations that seemed chaotic, but somehow achieved perfect harmony. The hunger learns by analyzing behavioral patterns and technological signatures, Cross continued. It's studied human tactics for 50 years, but it has never encountered the collective strategic doctrines of the entire galactic community, operating as one force. Representative Vorthak of the Hive Consciousness, Its insectoid form, surrounded by a cloud of smaller drones, clicked its approval. The collective swarm tactics operate on distributed decision-making principles. Individual units make choices based on local conditions rather than central command. The depth dwellers navigate by emotional resonance rather than tactical analysis, added Thulon. Our vessels respond to crew feelings and intuitive flows that cannot be predicted by logical algorithms. One by one, representatives began describing their species' unique approaches to warfare and problem-solving. The Silicon Collective used mathematical precision that bordered on artistry. The energy dancers fought by manipulating spacetime itself in patterns that resembled cosmic music. The Voidwalkers existed partially outside normal reality, making their movements impossible to track through conventional sensors. Each of your approaches confounds the hunger in different ways, Cross observed. But separately, you're just temporary puzzles for it to solve. Together, operating simultaneously, she activated a new simulation that made several delegates step back in amazement. The theoretical battle showed something unprecedented. Combined fleet where every ship operated according to completely different logical frameworks, yet somehow achieved perfect coordination. Human vessels provided chaotic unpredictability, while alien ships contributed precision, intuition, dimensional manipulation, and mathematical artistry. The Hunger's learning algorithms would face contradictory data streams, Cross explained. Mathematical precision conflicting with emotional intuition, swarm consciousness opposing individual initiative, dimensional phasing countering direct assault. It wouldn't be able to develop unified countermeasures. Representative Kyreth of the Energy Dancers, its plasma form swirling with excitement, pulsed agreement. The harmonic resonances alone would create interference patterns in any predictive matrix. But even as enthusiasm built among the delegates, hard realities began to surface. Coordination would be the critical challenge, noted Representative Axon of the Machine Consciousness. Our species have never attempted integrated operations on this scale. Communication protocols, tactical integration, command structures. Everything would need to be developed from scratch, and we don't have time for extended preparations, Cross added grimly. She displayed new sensor readings from the containment barrier. The Hunger is massing for another breakthrough attempt. Intelligence estimates 12 hours before the next assault. The chamber fell silent as delegates absorbed the impossible timeline. Creating a unified galactic military force typically took decades of negotiation and planning. They had half a day. Representative Zilth of the crystal hierarchies, its faceted form refracting light into complex patterns, offered a potential solution. The Council possesses emergency protocols for existential threats. All species laws can be suspended under Code Omega authorization. You're suggesting we bypass every diplomatic process and safety protocol that governs interspecies cooperation? Asked Representative Thulon with obvious concern. I'm suggesting we save the galaxy first and worry about protocols later, Cross interjected. Because if the Hunger breaks through our lines, there won't be any protocols left to worry about. She activated the final display Abawam projections, showing what would happen if containment failed completely. The Hunger would spread across the galaxy like a plague, consuming entire star systems in its path. Billions of civilizations would fall, their knowledge and essence absorbed into the entity's ever-growing consciousness. We need a decision now, Cross pressed. Every minute we delay costs lives and gives the Hunger more time to prepare. Representative Vorthak's drones buzzed with agitation. The Hive consciousness approves immediate action. Our manufacturing facilities can begin producing hybrid weapon systems within the hour. The Energy Dancers will contribute dimensional manipulation technology, Kireth announced. Our reality-shifting capabilities could provide tactical advantages the Hunger has never encountered. One by one, species that had been suspicious rivals for millennia committed their most advanced technologies and military forces to the desperate alliance. Ancient enemies found themselves coordinating battle plans. Civilizations that had never communicated before began sharing their deepest strategic secrets. But as the planning intensified, Admiral Cross received a priority transmission that made her face go pale. "Admiral," came the voice of her tactical officer through the quantum link, "we're detecting massive energy buildups beyond the barrier. The Hunger isn't just preparing another probar, it's massing for total breakthrough. Every signature we've ever cataloged plus configurations we've never seen before." Cross closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of galactic civilization on her shoulders. When she opened them again, her expression carried the grim determination that had kept humanity fighting for 50 years. "All vessels," she announced to the assembled delegates, "prepare for immediate deployment. We're not getting 12 hours to prepare. We're getting 12 minutes." The chamber erupted into coordinated chaos as representatives began issuing orders to their home fleets. Ships that had never worked together were about to face the greatest threat in galactic history. And somewhere beyond the barrier, the hunger prepared to test whether unity could triumph over inevitable consumption. The combined galactic fleet assembled at humanity's final defense line was a sight that defied every principle of military organization ever conceived. Ships from 43 different civilizations floated in formations that looked like controlled chaos a prior's crystalline vessels from the Silicon Collective moving in perfect, geometric patterns, while bioships from the aquatic depths flowed like living ocean currents around them. Commander Lisa Hayes stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned battleship Unity, watching the impossible armada take shape through her viewport. Energy dancer vessels phased in and out of normal space-time, while hive consciousness swarm ships moved in fractal patterns that hurt to observe directly. Human ships darted between them all, providing the unpredictable element that held the entire formation together. "Tactical analysis complete," reported Lieutenant Barnes from his station. "Sensor readings confirm what we hoped. The diverse energy signatures are creating interference patterns that should confuse hunger targeting systems." Hayes nodded grimly. The theory was sound, but they were about to test it against an enemy that had consumed entire galactic civilizations. Through the forward displays, the void barrier writhed with increasing activity as dark shapes massed beyond its boundaries. "Communication from Admiral Cross," Barnes announced. "She's requesting final readiness reports from all allied vessels." Hayes activated the multi-species communication grid, immediately connecting to the strangest military network in galactic history. Harmonic tones from the energy dancers mixed with clicking patterns from the hive consciousness, while mathematical equations from the Silicon Collective scrolled across her screens. "All human vessels report combat. Ready?" Hayes transmitted. "Standing by for coordinated assault." But even as confirmations poured in from allied fleets, warning alarms began screaming across every ship in the formation. "Contact!" Barnes shouted. "Something's coming through the barrier." The void barrier erupted like a cosmic wound as hunger entities poured into normal space. But these weren't the crude mimicries humanity had fought for 50 years. The new forms defied description, our ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Weapons that fired concentrated nothingness. Beings that seemed to devour light itself simply by existing. "By the sacred equations," whispered Representative Nexus over the communication link, "they've evolved beyond our theoretical models." The Hunger's new vessels moved with precision that made advanced military computers look primitive. They flowed around defensive fire, adapted to new weapon frequencies in real time, and coordinated their attacks with a unity that suggested a single vast intelligence controlling thousands of individual units. "All ships, commence attack pattern Alpha," Admiral Cross ordered over the fleet-wide channel. "Human vessels begin chaotic maneuvers. Allied forces, maintain your species-specific tactical doctrines." What followed was the strangest battle in galactic history. Human ships threw themselves into seemingly suicidal attacks while hive consciousness swarms moved in fractal patterns that confused enemy targeting. Energy dancers phased their vessels through multiple dimensions. Simultaneously, while Silicon Collective ships fired weapons with mathematical precision that bordered on artistry, the hunger entities responded with increasing confusion. Their perfect learning algorithms faced contradictory data streams, mathematical precision conflicting with emotional intuition, swarm consciousness opposing individual initiative, dimensional manipulation countering direct assault. "It's working," Hayes observed with amazement as hunger formations began to falter. Their adaptation systems can't develop unified countermeasures against such diverse tactics. But their celebration was premature. As the battle raged, the hunger began to separate its forces, dedicating different groups to studying each allied species independently. "Admiral," came an urgent transmission from the Aquatic Depths flagship. "Enemy forces are isolating our bioships from the main formation. They're analyzing our emotional resonance patterns. Similar reports flooded in from across the Allied fleet. The Hunger was adapting its strategy, dividing and conquering by studying each species' tactics in isolation. All vessels maintain formation integrity, cross-ordered desperately. Do not allow enemy forces to separate you from all. Her transmission cut off as massive shapes emerged from the deepest parts of the void barrier. The new arrivals dwarfed everything else on the battlefield, her entities so vast that sensors initially registered them as spatial anomalies. What are those things? Hayes whispered, watching the impossible giants move past the battle without apparent interest in the smaller combatants. Unknown, Barnes replied, his voice tight with fear. They're not engaging any Allied or Hunger forces. They're just watching. The new entities hung in space like living moons, their surfaces covered in patterns that shifted according to geometries that hurt to contemplate. They showed no interest in the desperate battle raging around them, focusing entirely on the Hunger forces with something that resembled recognition. Then the largest of the giant entities spoke, its voice bypassing communication systems and speaking directly to every consciousness in the battle. Area. Containment protocol activated. Unauthorized. Expansion detected. Harvest. Entity will return to designated boundaries. B. Effect on the Hunger forces was immediate and terrifying. The entities that had been winning the battle suddenly began retreating. Not in tactical withdrawal, but in what could only be described as panic. They fled back toward the void barrier with desperate speed. Admiral Cross, to all vessels, came the transmission from the human flagship. All ships hold position. Do not pursue retreating Hunger forces. Unknown entities have taken control of the battlefield. Hayes watched in stunned silence as the giant beings, whatever they were, began herding the Hunger entities back beyond the barrier with casual efficiency. The creatures that had nearly broken through humanity's 50-year defense were being corralled like livestock by forces that operated on scales beyond comprehension. Guardian species acknowledged. The largest entity continued, its attention now focused on the Allied fleet. Containment assistance noted. Harvest entity will remain confined to assigned sector. Representative Nexus's voice crackled over the communication grid, its usually precise speech patterns distorted with shock. These entities, they're treating the Hunger like a managed threat, as if this entire conflict has been supervised. The implications hit Hayes like a physical blow. The war that had cost humanity so much, the desperate 50-year struggle that had shaped their entire civilization. It had all been part of some larger cosmic management system. Designated Guardian species, the entity addressed the Allied fleet directly. Containment protocols will be adjusted. Collaborative oversight approved. Harvest entity expansion delayed indefinitely. Admiral Cross's voice came through the communication system, tight with the strain of trying to process impossible information. Unknown entity. This is Admiral Cross of the United Earth Defense Force. Are you saying that the Hunger has been contained before? Harvest entity is recurring phenomenon. Guardian species have maintained containment for 4.7 billion years. Human species has demonstrated acceptable management capabilities. The silence that followed was deafening. Hayes felt the weight of cosmic time pressing down on her as she realized that humanity's desperate war had been just the latest chapter in a conflict older than their solar system. Previous Guardian species, Cross asked quietly. What happened to them? Isolation protocols maintained containment but prevented civilization advancement. Guardian species experienced technological and cultural stagnation. Alternative approaches were required. The giant entity's attention turned to the diverse Allied fleet surrounding them. Collaborative Guardian protocol has not been attempted. Multiple species sharing containment duties may prevent stagnation while maintaining effectiveness. Experiment approved. Hayes looked around the bridge at her crew, seeing her own amazement reflected in their faces. Humanity had entered this battle expecting to make a last desperate stand against overwhelming odds. Instead, they had become part of something far larger, a cosmic management system that operated on scales beyond imagination. All vessels, came Admiral Cross's voice, heavy with the weight of new understanding. Prepare for extended operations. It seems our war isn't ending. It's just beginning a new phase. As the giant entities faded back into dimensions beyond normal perception, The Allied fleet remained at their posts. The hunger still lurked beyond the barrier, contained but not defeated. And somewhere in the cosmic distance, other guardian species watched over their own impossible frontiers. The galaxy's edge would never be the same again. 3 months after the cosmic entity's intervention, the Galactic Rim Defense Station orbited at the edge of human space, a testament to cooperation that had once seemed impossible. The massive structure incorporated technology from 43 different civilizations, creating something that was both beautiful and terrifying in its complexity. Commander David Kim walked through the station's central hub, watching representatives from across the galaxy work together on containment protocols that their species had never needed to contemplate before. Silicon Collective analysts worked alongside energy dancer theorists, while Hive consciousness technicians collaborated with human engineers to create monitoring systems that could track threats across multiple dimensions. Status report, Kim requested as he entered the primary command center. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos looked up from a display showing the void barrier's current configuration. The hunger has been quiet for the past 48 hours, but deep sensors are detecting increased activity in the restricted zones. Whatever those cosmic entities did, it's holding, but the pressure is building. Through the command center's main viewport, Kim could see the barrier that had defined human existence for 50 years. It no longer appeared as the wall of absolute darkness they had fought against for so long. Now it shimmered with complex energy patterns that suggested the cosmic entity's management protocols were actively containing something far worse than anything humanity had imagined. Incoming. Transmission from the Galactic Council, Santos announced. First speaker Kaleth is requesting an immediate conference. The holographic display materialized, showing not just Kaleth but representatives from every major civilization in the galaxy. Their expressions carried a mixture of gratitude and deep concern that had become common since the truth about the hunger had been revealed. Commander Kim, Kaleth began, its metallic form flowing with patterns that suggested both respect and unease. We have received communications from the cosmic entities. They have provided us with additional information about our situation. Kim felt ice forming in his stomach. What kind of information? Representative Nexus of the Silicon Collective activated a new display, showing star charts that spanned far beyond the known galaxy. The entities have revealed the true scope of the hunger phenomenon. What we encountered was not a single entity, but part of a cosmic network that spans multiple galaxy clusters. The display zoomed out to show a view that defied human comprehension. Dozens of galaxies were marked with containment zones, each managed by different guardian species. Some zones pulsed with stable containment. Others flickered with warning indicators where guardian civilizations had failed and been replaced. The hunger is not unique to our galaxy, Kaleth continued. It is part of what the entities call a harvest cycle, or recurring phenomenon that has been consuming civilizations across the universe for billions of years. Kim studied the cosmic map with growing horror. And the guardian species are the immune systems of the universe, Representative Kireth of the Energy Dancers replied, its plasma form swirling with disturbed patterns. Species that have proven capable of containing the hunger without being consumed by it. But the cost? A new display showed the histories of previous guardian civilizations, species that had achieved incredible technological advancement, only to become isolated and stagnant as they devoted their entire existence to containing cosmic threats. The entities have proposed something unprecedented, Kaleth said. Instead of designating humanity as the sole guardian species for this sector, they want to establish a rotating system where multiple civilizations share the burden. Kim felt a mix of relief and apprehension. What does that mean practically? Representative Thulon of the Aquatic Depths, its translucent form rippling with nervous energy, answered. It means our civilizations will take turns maintaining the containment barriers, 100-year shifts, rotating between species to prevent the stagnation that has affected previous guardians. But it also means permanent commitment, added Representative Vorthak of the Hive Consciousness. Once a species becomes part of the Guardian network, they can never fully return to normal galactic civilization. The knowledge alone changes everything. Kim understood the implications. The 43 species that had participated in the defense against the hunger were now permanently linked by shared knowledge. of cosmic threats that most civilizations never even suspected existed. There's something else, Santos said quietly, activating internal sensor displays. We've been monitoring the other containment zones shown in the cosmic maps. 3 sectors have gone dark in the past month. Guardian species that were maintaining stable containment have stopped responding. The silence that followed was heavy with implication. If Guardian species were failing across the cosmic network, the pressure on the remaining containment zones would increase exponentially. The entities have made one final proposal, Calith said, its voice carrying the weight of species-defining decisions. They want our alliance to become the backup Guardian network for failing sectors. We would be responsible not just for our own galaxy, but for providing emergency containment when other Guardian species fail. Kim felt the scope of what they were discussing expand beyond anything he had prepared for. You're talking about expanding our responsibilities across multiple galaxies? We're talking about becoming the cosmic immune system's rapid response force, Representative Axon of the Machine Consciousness clarified. Our proven ability to coordinate diverse tactical approaches has never been replicated by previous Guardian networks. The displays shifted to show theoretical deployment scenarios and our combined fleets moving between galaxies to reinforce failing containment zones, establishing emergency barriers around cosmic threats that had broken free from other sectors. The alternative, Caleth said grimly, is to watch the universal containment network collapse piece by piece until even our combined defenses are overwhelmed. Kim looked around the command center at the species representatives, who had become his partners in defending against cosmic darkness. A few months ago, these beings had been strangers from distant civilizations. Now they were the closest thing to family he had in a universe that suddenly seemed far more dangerous and far more connected than anyone had imagined. If we accept this responsibility, Kim said slowly, we're not just changing our own civilizations. We're volunteering to become something entirely new in cosmic history. Yes, agreed Representative Zilth of the Crystal Hierarchies, its faceted form refracting light into complex patterns. We would become the first truly collaborative Guardian network, species working together not just to defend their own galaxy, but to maintain stability across the universal containment system. Kim thought about Earth, about the billions of humans who had no idea their species had just been offered a role in cosmic management that would define their future for millions of years. What do our peoples think about this? He asked. The preliminary votes are in, Santos reported. Every participating species has approved the expanded Guardian role by overwhelming majorities. Apparently facing extinction tends to clarify priorities. Kim smiled grimly. And if we succeed? Then we become part of something larger than any single civilization has ever achieved, Calith replied. A network of species working together to maintain stability across the universe itself. And if we fail? The silence stretched for long moments before Representative Kyreth answered with stark honesty. Then the cosmic harvest continues, and eventually there won't be anyone left to ask such questions. Kim looked out at the void barrier, watching it shimmer with the energies of containment protocols that spanned cosmic time. Beyond it, the hunger waited with patient malevolence. Beyond that, other Guardian species maintained their own desperate vigils against threats that could consume galaxies. Signal all allied fleets, Kim ordered. Prepare for extended operations. We have a universe to defend. As the representatives signed the Cosmic Guardian protocols, establishing the first collaborative containment network in universal history, Kim reflected on how much had changed. Humanity had started this journey accused of territorial theft. They were ending it as partners in the most important mission in cosmic existence. The galactic map no longer ended at human territory. Instead, it began there at the point where 43 different civilizations had learned that some responsibilities were too important to face alone, and too vital to the universe to fail. In the depths of space, ancient entities older than galaxies themselves watched the new Guardian network take shape, and for the first time in billions of years, they allowed themselves something that might have been hope. The real exploration was just beginning.